Would you say
Raise your
that a
hand if you've
couple of
done
days
all
ago?
your homework.
Homework or homework and quiz?
Everything.
Oh my God.
Wah, wah. 8 o'clock. Here we go. Mm, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the last class of ACI 16. That should feel good. We missed a class, as everybody is aware of, I assume. And I was reviewing when Geshe Michael taught it, and he also missed a class. So I feel like we're following tradition. We're doing perfect. We are in line with what we should be doing. So, what that means is we have two classes to do today, um, which, seeing as we've never done one class in a day, seems extremely unlikely that we'll do two in a day. Uh, so we'll hit the points that basically that I like, and then we have the PPTs, you have homeworks and readings and each other. It will all work out. Promise. But that said, let's begin. PPT slide number 1. We're moving on to ACI 5. Oh, did anyone come up with a reason why it's the proof of future lives? Given the completion of that course? Because the main proof was of past lives. Any theories on why he called it the proof of future lives? Going once, going twice. You could put it in the chat. Nothing. Here's my theory. Why is he talking about future lives? In the last class, why did he get on to having to prove past lives? You'll put it like that. When we started that logical proof, there's a reason that we got into it. It was the Charvakas that were like, there's no, when you die, you're dead. Right? What were they arguing about at that point? True mind streams don't end. No. I mean, that's part of it. Megan Dombrowski for the win on the train. Yeah, they're in an argument. Good job, Megan. Here's my theory and Megan's theory. They're arguing about, can we develop those three kinds of compassion? Great compassion, really great compassion, really, really great compassion. Like the compassion of an enlightened being. And the Charvakas say, well, you can't do all of that in one life. It's impossible. And when the body dies, the mind dies. So you'll never be able to get that highest form of compassion. And then Dharmakirti gives the proof of past lives that the mind stream is caused, that it must be caused by something similar. And that similar thing must be a previous moment of our mind. And so if you accept that, then you have to accept infinite past lives. And then also infinite future lives. And then he proves that we can develop holy great compassion. And then you could call your course the proof of future lives. Because what we're talking about is our capacity to develop compassion. That's Megan's theory, and I approve. Does that make sense? Samantha Hellerman, did that make sense? Do you accept that? I thought that was so cool. I was so excited about that. Maybe one day we can hit up Geshe Michael to see if Megan and I are right. If nothing else, it'd sure be a fun debate question for the debate ground. We could make it on the Maroc test. Everyone know Maroc? Maroc is the final exam. After all 18 courses, to really finish, you do a final exam, a Maroc exam, which is what you would do after the Geshe program. Okay, first slide. 7 minutes gone already. We're reviewing course 5 now, which is called How Karma Works. Okay. So with this, we'll have finished the review of the first 5 ACI classes. This one's called How Karma Works. Based on this text called the Abhidharma Kosha. Abhidharma Kosha, the Tibetan is, I'll put it in the chat. Ngunpa Chidze. Say Ngunpa. Chidze. So the Abbey means like, oh, that's not the right slide. Is that the right slide? No, let's do that. No, yeah, let's do that one. Abi means like up to or approaching. The Dharma means a thing, or a Dharma, a thing. And kosha or dzi means like a treasure chest, a thing you put all the gold and jewels in. So that's this treasure chest of wisdom. Okay, so cha means, or dharma, we often think of it to mean a teaching, but dharma means comes from the root dhr, which means to hold. And usually Geshe Michael talks about it as cha can mean a textbook, dharma can mean a textbook, but it also means an existing thing. And so an existing thing is anything that cha, that holds its essence, meaning anything that's empty. Anything that is empty, that has that essence, that dharma. Anything that has a dharma is an existing thing because it holds an essence, which is its emptiness. Anything that is empty is an existing thing. But in this class, he also said that that idea of hold means that the dharma holds you up from the lower realms, like suspenders. It's like the suspenders that hold up your pants. The dharma is the suspenders that hold you up from the lower realms. I thought that was cool. I hadn't heard that before. And so when we talk about Abhidharma, Abhi, it brings you up to that highest Dharma, which is nirvana and enlightenment. So Abhidharma, Abhi, it takes you up to that nirvana, enlightenment. And so it's the treasure house of higher knowledge. Higher knowledge means higher knowledge is like the true, when we say path, like the Lam Rim, steps on the path, that Lam, that means a path, it means a realization. It means like a realization in the mind. So a true path is like seeing emptiness directly, or true renunciation. So higher knowledge is like a true path like those things. Or some, I think we'll see it sometimes, we'll come into the word like immaculate wisdom. And that means the wisdom perceiving emptiness. So here's my point. What's Abhidharma? Abhidharma means the true path, a true path, like seeing emptiness directly. Or it's the wisdom of the wisdom of the three higher paths: path of seeing, path of habituation, path of no more learning. That's Abhidharma, is those three higher paths: seeing emptiness directly, path of seeing, the wisdom of the path of habituation, the wisdom of the path of no more learning. That's the real Abhidharma, is the true realizations of those three paths. And then it's anything that helps you get to that point, like studying or meditating or going to class. Those are Abhidharma, and they become Abhidharma. See what I mean? So, like all the books about Abhidharma bring you to the real Abhidharma. So those all the books about that subject, Abhidharma, are called Abhidharma, and they lead you to the real Abhidharma, which is the immaculate wisdom of the three higher paths. So it's so cool. It's a whole teaching in the one in the title of the text. Abhidharma is a subject, right? The main text is the Abhidharma Kosha that we'll study. It's the treasure house of knowledge. All of those books on that subject are Abhidharma because they bring us up to the real Abhidharma, which is the immaculate wisdom of the three higher paths, the real paths, the real realizations. Okay. Who cares? Next slide. Mm, let's go. Oh, that's what I was just talking about. Next slide. Let's go back a slide. And another one. And another one. Okay, here's the commentary. Illumination of the Path of Freedom. It's called Tarlam Selje. Please say Tarlam Selje. And then if someone that knows Tibetan can connect Tarlam Selje with illumination of the path to freedom in the chat, that would be great. Tarlam Selje. Break those words up with illumination of the path to freedom. Next slide. And the next one, that one. Like we have some correct Tibetan going on. Thank you, Lon. Okay, Geshe Michael went off about this idea in the original class. It's like it's something he's really into. When he talks about it, it's a little bit uncomfortable for me because I find it's pretty extreme, but it's definitely how he's lived his life. He's like, what's cool about the Abhidharma Kosha? Like, why would we study it? Why is this book worthy of our time to study? Or why is any book worth our time? And I think you could now extrapolate that to Netflix series or YouTube videos or sports on TV. It's, when this was made, there were none of that. There was only books, or maybe a play or something. What makes something what makes something worthy of our attention? And it's these four, if it's these four qualities or the relationship between these four things. And he's like, when he taught, he was like, don't waste your time. Right? You don't have any time, period. Thinking that we have time is just a deadly illusion. Like the sand is running through the hourglass of our life. The sand, our life is running fast. And we don't get to add more time. He's like, you don't have time. It's almost done. So don't waste it. Look for books with these qualities. And if a book doesn't have these qualities, don't read it. Period. If a movie doesn't have these qualities, don't waste your time on it. You don't, we don't have time. And, that's uncomfortable because that's certainly not how I live my life. And I don't, it's some part of me objects. Like, I don't know if I could do that or want to be that person that only studies Dharma or that only is like that's all they do. Like I've done that. I did that for 12 years. I didn't read any books for probably 12 years other than a Dharma book, probably more than that. Um, but it's uncomfortable to think of like living a life like that's the like it can be kind of create a lot of tension in people, I think, and guilty of like I'm watching a movie and then people feel guilty and I'm wasting my time and I don't have time, and it can add to a lot of stress and guilt. And I don't think that's healthy. And I don't think that's productive. And so we have to find, the truth in the example, the find the Dharma in the what otherwise might look as normal, and find the line that is right for us. Geshe Michael's line is pretty extreme. Scripture, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's kind of how he lives his life. But I don't know if that's healthy for everybody. And if that's somebody's passion, then great. But when people present that in a way that is like, I don't know, can't overwhelm people with that, or it's not right for everybody, then we shouldn't force that on everybody because it leads to stress, anxiety, guilt, and that's not helpful on anyone's path. Nonetheless, so there's Geshe Michael's presentation's pretty hardcore, in my opinion. My feeling is often Geshe Michael, we're here. Geshe Michael presents here, hoping that we'll meet in the middle. Or working towards that extreme. Here's the four qualities of a book or a thing that we should look for so that we don't waste our life. He's like, evaluate, like, why are you reading this thing? Like, are you going to live forever? Are you going to die? Yeah. Okay, well, then evaluate. It's a nice test for our activity. Subject matter. So, for example, the Abhidharma Kosha, the subject matter is stained and unstained wisdom. It's dividing everything into pure and impure. That's the subject matter. Second is there's a short-term goal. So the short-term goal is that it gives us wisdom about stained and unstained, pure and impure. So we have a short-term goal, a purpose, and an ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is two kinds of nirvana, nirvana and enlightenment. And then the fourth component is there needs to be a connection. Like, is there a connection between the subject matter, understanding pure and impure, with wisdom? And is there a connection between wisdom and the two kinds of nirvana? Okay, cool. Next, I was going to skip that last slide, but Geshe was so adamant about it. He loves talking about it. I think it's very important to him. Let's talk about karma. Mm, First off, definition. And we're going to do a breakout group pretty quick. So get ready. If you've been asleep, wake up, pay attention. We're about to have a breakout room. This chapter starts the fourth. This is the from the first line of the fourth chapter. Very famous. It is Lele Jikta Natsoke. I will put it in the chat. In the transliteration, maybe someone can put it in pronunciation. Okay, that's the transliteration. Then maybe someone could put the closest English pronunciation. If someone wants to also translate it, that would be cool. I'll do it roughly. It's talking about what karma is. Okay, karma is is mental activity. It's thinking, and it's that mental activity and what it motivates. So, what is it that the mental karma, the movement of the mind, motivates? Mental movement. I should have some coffee right now. What it motivates. Action or words. So it's motivating acts of body and speech. So karma is thinking, and anything that thinking motivates you to do or say. So acts of body, speech, and mind. There's a A lot more to that story, of course, but for now, let's leave it at that definition. And let's go on to talking about two types of karma: virtue and non-virtue. So I'd like everybody to give their own definition of virtue in the chat. Karina, can you go back a slide, or whoever? Okay, there we go. Give a definition of virtue. I'd like a definition of, yeah, let's just stick with that. Definition of virtue. Karina, action that brings some good result. Todd, highest morals. Highest morals. Samantha, good karma. Anything that causes pleasurable results. Laura, something that creates a result you want. Good karma. It sounds like a really easy question, right? What's virtue? It's like a good, feels like we should say it's a good deed, something that brings about a good result. Let's go to the next slide and see what definition we get in the Abhidharma Kosha. And it turns out we're only half right. An action which, in the short term, brings you a result, which is nice, and which ultimately protects you from suffering in the long term, which let's take to mean brings you to nirvana. In breakout groups, given this definition, what would be an example of virtue? And does what everybody wrote fit? Let's do 8 minutes. Okay. Given that definition, what would be an example of a virtue?
What do you guys think? What do you think about the difference or that part that says it brings you a result that's pleasurable in the short term and protects you from suffering in the long term? What do you guys think that means?
I think that the only way to bring that about is by being mindful kind of subtly though, of the good deeds that you're doing for others, because that's the only thing that can plant the seeds to prevent suffering for oneself as well. You have to give it to somebody else first.
I really like the idea that it would bring like an immediate pleasurable result. And I also think that's not always the case. You know, and I'm thinking of like the list of 10, like sometimes if you're trying to be honest, for example, and not tell a lie, that can create some discomfort in the moment and not just like immediate pleasure, like maybe giving something material would. Although, of course, if you're like seeing it correctly, you know, with wisdom, then I think you would be able to, but I think that can be challenging. Um, so the example that comes up for me is like generosity, some form of giving, you know, the virtue of generosity versus the non-virtue of stealing, to me feels like one that could be a good example of like having an immediate sense of pleasure, I think, for most of us. But I think the second piece of it, that there's like protection from long-term suffering, I feel like I can trust in that and experience that more readily than always having an immediate pleasurable like reaction from practicing virtues, because I think sometimes it doesn't always feel that way.
Yeah, Laura, that's such a good point of like, it might not immediately feel that way, but does it immediately feel that way if you're doing the action with wisdom? And that makes me think about how Earle started the class of like explaining Abhidharma and how it's the third path. It's the thing that brings you onto the third path, and then you're like there. And so then are you doing all of those seeds with wisdom? So now they are having that short-term result of feeling pleasurable. Because I think that like giving something away can only maybe not feel pleasurable if it's not done with wisdom.
I'll add
What do
on
you
to that.
think?
I'll add on to that. Because I think, okay. Sometimes it can be the opposite. It can feel good when you do it, and then you'll have regret later. And that's not, then it negates the karma. And an example of that would be when I lived in San Francisco, I would get asked for money or something like 4 times just walking home from work. And then I get home and I don't have a tomato to cook my dinner that I want. So then I have regret that I don't have the money to run out and get it. So it kind of negates what I did earlier. So I try to find things that eventually can be what I label as doing things that are genuine and authentic. And then it seems not to have a negative result in the long run at all. And sometimes, like I said, I think we talked about before, it could be just like complimenting someone. And then you'll eventually learn higher levels of things that work the same way. And for some reason it's relating. I talked to Earle after class the other day, and I told him I had a very brief period in my life where there was no fear. And maybe it lasted like a day or 3. Well, actually, I think it lasted a bit longer, but it felt like, and the result of that I felt was because I was living in absolute truth somehow. And that even when I was in a situation that seemed like it would be strained, combative, or creating challenge with someone else, it didn't, because somehow I was able to like express myself in a way that was so truthful that the other person didn't feel threatened or anything. And that's when I had sort of like had the awareness of what was going on and was like, wow, this is like kind of incredible. And then it went away. But whoops, already?
Thanks for sharing, guys. Good to see you.
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
Back yet? Hey, Rosie. Um, let's wait. Is everyone back? Like to congratulate Todd Martin, got his new job today that he was hoping to get, got it yesterday. Congratulations, Todd. Everyone can celebrate with Todd. He had some obstacles that have been removed, and great to hear the news. Congratulations. Okay, that said, give me an example of virtue, or what were your thoughts on this new, to me, definition? Is giving somebody money a virtue?
Did you want us to write this in the chat or can we chime in?
Please chime in.
All right.
Speak slowly for translators.
Okay. That's
meaning,
a good one
like,
that you.
Meaning like pause is really it's not speaking slowly so much as pausing.
Okay. I'm going to use a spin-off of what you just said, giving someone money. Because while living in San Francisco, I would walk home from work and almost every day be asked for money or something like at least 4 times. And eventually I learned to just give money to one person. But and then I get home and it'd feel good in the moment. But I get home and I wouldn't have a tomato and then I wouldn't have the money to go out and buy one. So then there would be regret, which I think then negates karma or cancels it out. So then, like I said, I tried to do things that are what I call more genuine and authentic, like complimenting a stranger and then developing it into a habit. And then eventually you learn to do other things and you're more mindful of not having a regret later. But I think it comes down to trying to do things genuinely and authentically, which are kind of nebulous to describe.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Does that meet the definition of virtue? Does it protect us from suffering in the long term? That's the definition we're having to meet. What do other people think? What's your examples?
Я могу включить просто звук и начать говорить. Если мы говорим
Yes, if we speak about
самой мощной своей добродетели,
about the strongest of our
получить
virtue
максимальный результат,
to get the maximum result,
я выберу добродетель,
I would choose a virtue
направленную на три
that is
драгоценности.
directed to three jewels.
Например, быть
For example,
волонтером
to be a volunteer
в учительских проектах
in the teachers' projects,
или давать деньги
or,
не
for
какому-то
example, give
конкретному
money not to
человеку,
some
нуждающемуся,
particular stranger or who is in need,
а большой благотворительной
but to
организации.
give money to a big charitable organization,
Или помогать
or
родителям, например,
help parents, for
дать
example,
на содержание,
take care of them, support them,
как те, кто дал мне
as
человеческое
they
тело,
are
в котором
those
я
who gave me
могу прийти к
this human
просветлению.
body, which can lead me, which can help me to get to enlightenment,
И научил многому.
and taught me a lot.
Thank
Я
you.
всем.
Thank you for speaking slowly. The translation is great.
Спасибо.
If you instead of just giving a random person money, gave money to a what you considered a virtuous organization or a virtuous person, how is that different? Like that money is going to ripen. Maybe it would ripen as more money. Or quicker, it would ripen quicker. But how does that become an action that takes you to nirvana as opposed to an action that doesn't? Which seems to be what we need to do to meet this definition of virtue. Is meditation a virtue?
Я могу ответить?
I can give a
Я
reply.
думаю, что является,
I think meditation is a virtue
так как наивысшей формой
because
добродетели
the highest form of the virtue
является стать просветленным,
is to become enlightened
чтобы спасти всех живых существ.
for the sake of all living beings.
И я медитирую для того, чтобы
And I'm
преобразить
meditating
свой ум
to transform my mind
и в конце концов свое тело для
and
этого.
eventually my body for this.
Еще помню из курса, что
And I
наивысшей
remember from
добродетелью
courses the highest virtue is also
является нести дхарму,
is to spread dharma to other people.
Let's keep going. Thank you for the answer.
I want to give
said-
another example.
Dan says it depends on the object of meditation and the mental affliction in the process. Todd, go for it.
This isn't about meditation though.
Okay.
Another example of when I was doing elder care in San Francisco, a lot of people in that city have to sell their medications because to pay their rent, or that's the choice they make to meet their rent sometimes. And I was helping a gentleman who actually did that, but I was never there when the transactions took place, or first I didn't know about it. Then he would send me away when these people were coming. But then I was able to put two and two together, and it's okay. So he sells his medication, they sell the medication, then somebody else sells the medication, and then somebody dies at a rape.
Hmm.
And that comes back to everyone's karma involved,
Right.
including me, because I have the knowledge of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same
And
action,
yeah.
be different results. Okay, we need to move on from this, but it's kind of an interesting question now. What makes something virtue? Is giving money so that we get money a virtue?
Можно я?
I want to say
Можно?
something. Can I say something?
У
Yeah.
меня... Да, привет всем.
Hello, everyone.
А в какой мы школе?
Which school we are in?
Смотря из какой школы. Мы можем дать этот ответ.
Depending on the school, we can give a reply.
Но если мы
But if
будем
we
говорить о высшей школе,
talk about higher schools,
то я думаю, что
I
мы
think
должны вспомнить о том,
we have to remember
что
about
любая добродетель, любая
that
медитация
each virtue, each
не
meditation,
является самосуществующей.
they are not self-existing.
Все, что мы
And
делаем,
everything we
это
do
проекции нашей
is
прошлой
a
кармы,
projection of our past karma,
наших всех действий, наших
of all
слов
our
и
actions,
мыслей.
our words and thoughts.
Вот, поэтому
That's
понимание
why understanding of emptiness
всего,
of
что
everything
происходит с нами, то, что мы
that's
делаем,
happening with us, what we are doing,
дает нам возможность
gives us the chance, the
продвинуться
opportunity
к тому, чтобы увидеть пустоту
to
напрямую.
progress in order to see emptiness
Ну, еще мы в
directly.
группе говорили про
But
любовь.
we also talked
говорили
about,
про
we discussed
бодхичитту,
love, we talked about
что
bodhicitta,
любая
that
добродетель,
each virtue
она, конечно, делает наши,
makes
нашу жизнь,
our
да, нашу
makes
реальность
our life, our reality
более лучше. Мы
better.
можем создавать деньги, мы
We
можем
can create
создавать
money,
партнерство, все
we
что
can create
угодно.
partnerships,
Но
anything we want, but
без любви, без
without
бодхичитты
love or without
нам
bodhicitta,
придется вернуться
we would
в
have to
самое
go
начало.
back to the very
Вот,
beginning.
поэтому
So
я бы
that's
сказала,
why
что
I would say
бодхичитта это самое главное
bodhicitta is the
для
most
того,
important
чтобы
thing
мы смогли
in
достичь
order
своей главной
so
цели.
that we could reach our ultimate
Спасибо.
goal. Thank you.
Cool. It's interesting. I was thinking about that also, because if we do a deed with bodhicitta, now it's called a collection of merit or a collection of wisdom. And so what's the connection between the two collections and virtue? I don't think they're the same. But we do need to move on. It seems like there's a common theme of virtue might be dependent on motivation or object but I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to use this as a test of what we think of as virtue. So in the example of giving money, is giving money because I know I'll get money, is being generous a virtue? If that deed just ripens, money comes back, does it fit the definition of virtue? So then if it's not virtue, is it a non-virtue? What about if we give money so that we can get money, so that we can go on retreat, so that we can learn how to meditate? Does that now, so that we can see emptiness directly, does that now fit our definition of virtue? Okay. Oh my God. So much more to do. Let's go. Let's do the next slide. Karma can ripen in 3 different times. This life, the next life, some life after that. Why is choice A important? Choice A is important because it's the basis of Tantra. It's the basis of the possibility of getting enlightened in one lifetime. So it's interesting that we can perhaps see a justification for Diamond Way Tantra in an Abhidharma text. Like with this in Abhidharma, are we seeing a potential for profound results in one life? That's not normally how things are talked about in the Abhidharma. And then if it's true that seeds can ripen in this life, what would make it the action so powerful that it would ripen in this life? That would be a good question to ask. If I want my seeds to ripen in this life, what do I need to do? Because we're seeing, even in an Abhidharma text, that that's a possibility. And it's the basis of Tantra. That possibility of seeds ripening in one life. Choice B and C, next life or some other life. Why do they include B? Why isn't it just this life or some other life? Why do we need B in the options? Why would that be helpful for lower scope people? Like, why not just have A and C? Next slide. You can chat in your answers. Let's skip that one. I wanted to show this slide just because of the puppy. Next slide. We have 10 non-virtues divided into 3 of body, speech, and mind. We're all familiar with that. Next slide. Okay. I wanted to talk about this briefly. It's called often the 4 ways karma ripens. Like we're used to, when we talk about, Geshe talks about the way karma ripens, like the fruits of karma, usually we talk about 4. And in this presentation, it's only 3. So it's a little confusing. So I wanted to briefly talk about why there's only 3. First one is the ripened result. So in this example, we're talking about with an action of killing. What's a ripened result? It's a birth in a lower realm. I wonder if that's the answer to, I like Nguyen's answer related to the 5 misdeeds. I think it might be that when we talk about karma ripening in the next life, it's because this is important. The deeds we do are going to produce a, here Geshe translated as ripened result. It's the seed that's going to produce our next life. So that might be why there's that second division. Karma can ripen in this life. Karma can ripen in the next life. And it's important because it's going to dictate your next life. So if it's a really heavy negative one, killing people, it'll be in the lower realms. Next, we have a corresponding result. Corresponding result, there's two kinds. Okay, there's having a similar experience, like having a short life or being killed, and a habit. We'll just be predisposed to do that same thing again. We'll be naturally inclined to hurt people. We'll be the kid in school that is always getting in fights. So the corresponding result is divided into two. One is we'll have a similar experience, right? And two is we'll have a similar habit. So if we are very generous, then the similar experience would be money comes very easy to us. And then we'll also have the second part, the habit of just being naturally a generous person. And then here we have the environmental result. We'll live in a culture where generosity is seen as a virtue. A virtue? Is that the right word? Generosity is thought of favorably. Is generosity a virtue? Not necessarily. When generosity isn't a virtue, is it a non-virtue? That's not very comfortable, is it? Doesn't seem to meet that definition either. Next slide. Karina, I hope you noticed I answered the question for a change.
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Next slide. And the next one. This one. One of the coolest parts of course 5 is the reading. I think it's reading 5 or 6. Hold on a second. Megan, I have to screenshot that. Sarah's gonna love that. Thank you for noticing, Megan. You have made Sarah's day. She was so happy with this. Maybe she's on the call. Sarah, are you with your mom? Where are you guys? No. Mom came to class. Sarah skipped. Great. Thanks, Sarah. Awesome. Okay. In the ACI reading, ACI 5, I think it's around class 5, the readings are really challenging and they're really good and they're deep. And it gets into the ideas of the mind only school about karma and where karma stays. I think it's some of the hardest readings in all of the ACI coursework. That course 13, course 15. But the readings in ACI 5 are really, really, really good. And they're hard. So if you have a whole bunch of free time and you want to dig into some good coursework, And as a teacher, that's what we should be doing. All the deep stuff is in the readings of these courses. The readings are much deeper than the presentation. There's much, much more depth in the reading. So, mind only school, basically the idea is that there's a karmic seed that's ripening. It's mind looking at mind and being fooled, thinking that we're looking at an outside world. Really, it's mind looking at mind. There is no outside world. How could a mental thing, the mind, how could a mental thing, produce an external physical world? That's crazy, right? How would a mental thing ripen into a physical solid building or an external? How would a mental thing create a physical tree? How could karma ripen into physicality? That's crazy. Who would ever think that? That's the mind only position, kind of, right? How could mind produce a concrete building? It's the illusion of an external physical reality, but it's really mind looking at mind. Obviously, mental things don't produce physical things. Who would ever think that? What a weird idea. Next slide. Oh my God, we're running out of time. Here's more mind-only ideas. More weird mind-only ideas. Mental seeds get planted in our awareness through action. Those seeds stay in the mind. They have to stay somewhere, right? A seed is a thing. Things must exist somewhere. So where would a mental seed stay? It stays in the mind. Where else would it stay? I have to screenshot that. Sarah will be happy. It's cool, right? In this movie, it's like a part of your mind looking at you. It's very mind only. It's like your mind being aware of what you're doing. It's wrong, Rick. It's very cool. Anyway, a seed has to stay somewhere. It's a thing. Existing things stay somewhere. And when the conditions are right, that seed ripens into a perception. What's the problem? This is a mind only school position. Seeds are planted through actions of body, speech, mind. Those seeds, which are mental, have to stay somewhere. So obviously they're not going to stay outside of the mind. They're going to stay in the mind. They're mental. Mental things exist within mental things, I guess. And they ripen into perceptions of things. What's the problem? Why, as a prasangikas, do we object? Sounds pretty good. Actions produce seeds. Seeds got to stay somewhere. They ripen into an experience.
There are some answers in the chat. I try to translate them, but I'm not sure if you can see that.
Next slide. I'm not sure how a seed not being physical and not mental helps. And I think technically, I would say they're not entirely physical and they're not entirely mental, as opposed to not physical, not mental. Long story. I'm not sure it helps though. Okay, next slide. For the last 10 in 19 minutes, here we go. Maitreya's 6 steps. Thank you for being here, Nicole. Okay, Maitreya's 6 steps. Hopefully everyone's familiar with this. It's a description of what gets us into problems and how to get out of problems. It's a different version of the wheel of life. I think it's important to learn this and then to really have a good way of thinking about it in a practical sense. So, for instance, let's go through it. We have seeds in our mind from previous lives. Due to those seeds ripen, and we start to see things as self-existing. Sorry, there's different ways this is presented. Step 1, we have seeds to see things as self-existent. Those seeds ripen, and we see things as self-existent. Based on that ignorance, we either like them or don't like them. Step 3. From their own side. Step 4, we either want it, grasp to it, or we have aversion and avoid it. And that causes us to act, and we collect karma. How do we now take that example and put it into a real life example for us? I always think of the time I went to a party. Good practicing yogi, being mindful, kind of like doing walking meditation as I'm walking to the party. Knock on the door. Someone opens the door. Earle, what are you doing here? And I'm like, what, I'm not allowed to go to a party because I'm a Buddhist or I'm a yogi? Like, why the sarcastic surprise or attitude, What are you doing here? I'm like, fuck you. So I go in and I go to see my buddy. We're sitting by the drink table having our, at that time, non-alcoholic drink in the middle of a party. And I was like, you wouldn't believe it. Come to the door, and this person's like, what are you doing here? And that's it. That's Maitreya's 6 steps. And that's kept me in samsara. I've just perpetuated samsara. My ear just hears sounds. Earle, what are you doing here? Taking those sounds and interpreting them in a certain way. Sarcasm. What are you doing here? I don't like those sounds. I go find my buddy. Ben, you wouldn't believe it. Come to the door and this person's like, what are you doing here? And I've instantly created like a division between me and my friend and this other person. I've just been divisive. I'm like, what a guy's such an asshole. And that's all it takes. And we do that thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times a day. That quickly. For, the good deeds and the bad deeds. And so when we think these steps, we have to see how quickly we're spinning that wheel of karma. I've just thrown a boomerang that quickly. I have seeds, they ripen. Earle, what are you doing here? Annoying, unpleasant from its own side. I don't like it. I go find my friend. That person's an asshole. I've done an action. And I've just perpetuated, even just thinking it, I've perpetuated samsara. Even just having that thought and not catching it, I've just spun the wheel again. So these 6 steps happen super quick. And we need to have an awareness of them to be able to stop before the action. So these 6 steps, it's great to memorize them. It's great to put them on our homework. But that's not enough to break the cycle. It has to become real. It has to be like so ingrained that we're catching ourselves doing it. Last slide. Super famous example. This is the classical or a classical example of highest school view. This is like the explanation of Prasangika philosophy. So 3 beings walk into a bar and there's a glass of liquid on the table. The ghost or the preta, they come up to it and they see the liquid as just disgusting, like nasty blood, and just like pus and blood is the scripture, pus and blood, like gross body fluid. Like, oh, that's disgusting. Human sees it as a glass of water. And then here, Tara sees it as pure nectar. So 3 beings are seeing the same base object, you could say. They're all looking at the same thing. And then often when this is described, one part of the water acts as the material cause for the pus and blood. Sorry, one part of the liquid acts as the material cause for the pus and blood. one part of the water, one part of the liquid is the material cause for water. One part of the liquid acts as a material cause for the nectar. And then the seeds act as a contributing factor. For one being to see it as pus and blood, for one being to see it as water, for one being to see it as nectar. So the material cause is the liquid. The contributing factor is the seeds for each being. Anyone got a problem with that explanation? That's generally how I hear it described. I think it's a little bit confusing when we talk about the part. Yeah, no one exactly. It's the part thing. It's the liquid 100% is the material cause for water for a human. It's 100% the material cause for the pus and blood, and it's 100% the material cause for the nectar. When we talk about it having three parts, it gets a little, it's not like a third of the glass is this, a third of the glass is that, and a third is something else. So what does the one part mean? I think that's the question. Like what are they trying to say? Seems tricky. Material cause is not a lower school thing. We're good with that. So, we can think about that example, especially if we have to explain it. I don't think it's often explained. I think we have to be careful when we explain it and really understand the metaphor. But obviously, this is the basis of the pen story, right? When Geshe Michael talks about the pen, he's just using two examples, right? Pen and chew toy, dog and human. But it's this exact thing, this classical scriptural example is pen chew toy. Is the material cause shapes and colors? Yes and no. Material cause of the tree is the seed. Is a seed shapes and colors? Yeah. Cool. Yet again, another class with more questions than answers. Isn't that the way? Rena, I am lost. No need to be lost. However, we are unfortunately out of time, so we will leave it at that. How many parts would a Buddha see? Do they see three parts? All right, let's wrap up. It's an honor to teach ACI. I don't take it lightly. When people ask me to teach, it reminds me, like, I really do evaluate, do I have time to do it nicely? And it always, like, I'm always honored to teach ACI classes. To try to, do my best to convey what Geshe has taught in, what I think is such a profound course in transmitting Tibetan Buddhism. So I also always feel like it's an honor to take ACI, like an ACI class, and that we also shouldn't take it lightly. And I don't think we did take it lightly. Despite my jokes, attendance at this class was amazing. I was joking that we're like half the people show up. We're at the second half, only half the people show up. It wasn't like that. The last class, someone reminded me there was 57 people. Our highest attendance was 63. So attendance was amazing. People didn't start and then disappear. That's pretty cool. Generally, attendance falls by at least 50% in ACI classes. So thank you for being diligent and coming to class. The course obviously doesn't end today. It ends with the final exam, right? No, it doesn't end with the final exam. It ends with, hopefully, people looking to teach it. It's a teacher training program. ACI is a teacher training program. But it's not just that. It doesn't end with that. The point is that we live it. It doesn't end with the last class. It doesn't end with the last homework or the last final. It doesn't matter if you have a vision to teach it. What would be a shame is it would be a shame if it ended at the last class. That would be a big waste of time. The point is that we should evaluate it. Is this information, worth acting on? Does it seem true? Does it seem like it will lead to a better life? And if the answer is no, then we should stop going to class and definitely don't teach it. Right? But if the answer is yes, then it'd be crazy not to try to live it. And so, in the last 10 classes, there's way too many ideas to act on. Like it's hard even to remember what the first class was. Right? So we can't really focus on everything. But I always like to think of like what were the things I heard in the last course that really stuck out that I am really attracted to? Like pick 1, 2, or 3 things. Pick something to continue on with or to focus on, or like it's the one thing that I think can really make my life different or make me a better person. And to leave the course with a few things that we really want to work on or investigate more or put into practice. Otherwise, it's just going to the next. There'll be a next course. Somebody else will be teaching a course tomorrow. There's infinite online courses. And we can get stuck in that trap of just going from course to course to course to course. And that's a peculiar, strange obstacle we have, potential obstacle we now have. That we can get addicted to going to class and never take the time to allow it to change what we do. Like hearing 10 things and never applying any of them is worse than hearing one thing and using it to change your life. I fear that we just err on the side of hearing dozens and dozens of things, hundreds of classes. So try to find something that, resonated and, if there was something in the class that was like, oh yeah, that was the cool thing, then grab onto it. Ironically, I'd like to talk about another thing you could do. You up practice club. As part of YSI, part of what we wanted to do, so I'm stepping out of the ACI hat, putting on YSI hat for a second. We didn't just want to talk about ideas, didn't just want to have classes. Wanted to give a time to meet and to really practice the ideas and to go deeper into the ideas and to have a community of people to practice with. And so it is another class, but it's a practice class. It's a practice club. We're doing it twice a week. On Monday, we do something related to physical yoga. Which is much bigger than just asana. Talking about the subtle body and practices that use the subtle body to bring on realizations. We translate this into Russian. So it's English and Russian. And on Wednesday, we meditate together and focus on the progressing through the stages of meditation. We're going to be starting the focus of how do we get to level 4? I mean, it's always been a focus, but an idea is coming to fruition about doing like a, 8-week course or something like that on how to get to level 4. So if you're on level 5, don't worry about it. If you want to join a group of people that are coming together to practice together, then consider joining Practice Club. We try to make it super cheap and accessible. But if price is an obstacle, you can contact Karina or me. A couple thank yous. Sorry, we're over time. Karina, thank you for getting us all into this hot mess to begin with. Thank you for all of your support in helping me be organized and motivated and inspiring me to teach. inspiring us to come together to learn. Worldview production staff, the ACI team. I don't know everybody probably, but Frank, Gina, Marina, and the ACI coordinators. Thank you for putting this show on. The recorders, the team of people that record, that get the teachings online, that allow us all to skip class and watch it later on 2x speed. Thank you. You do a great service. The translation teams, I don't know everybody, but I know Eka and Anastasia. Roxana today is translating. So all of our translation teams, thank you. Also all the PPT translators. I know they were a lot of work. You can blame Sarah. And big thanks to Sarah for making those PPTs. I tried to get her to just do the questions I would cover, and she wouldn't do that. She wanted everybody to have a file with all of the answers, which meant many, many, many extra hours. So thank you, Sarah. And then thank you all of the people that debated in the chats, which means Russian people, Russian speaking people, primarily. Thank you for all the debates in the chat and the participation, and for all of the students that are here. You know, inspire me. Because people were interested, I get to review all of this stuff and I get to learn. And it's a huge benefit to me. So thank you for, you know, helping me in my path. And if, you know, if nothing else, then you can rejoice in having done a good deed in helping me in my path. It's extremely important for me to continue to study these things and to have an opportunity to try to share them. It's just super helpful for my path. So thank you. And last but not least, thank you, Geshe Michael, for doing all the initial hard work, learning all of this in Tibetan, translating it from Tibetan to English, countless hours of teaching, making the whole thing happen. 28 years of teaching me, and never once asking me for anything in return other than do your homework. Really, that's about all Geshe Michael's ever asked of me to do. It's just please do your homework. So thanks to Geshe Michael for creating all of this for us to study. And that's it.
No, it's not. We have to end up on a very good note. Because you know me, I will request another teaching. That's how I act.
Don't disappoint yourself by asking.
It's not only, no, it's not ACI 13. But yeah, guys, I think it's time to show the paper. No surprise. It's not only me this time. So Earl, I will try not to cry, but thank you so much for teaching us. And I always feel a little guilty that I keep asking you to teach ACI in the midst of chaos, or in-person event in Central Asia, or all of the other stuff I always ask you to do. And it's just you help us to open our hearts, and you are the beacon of light for so many people. And it's just the light goes in the cracks of our heart. So please keep being the beacon of light for us. And thank you for connecting us with Geshe Michael and with the lineage. And we love you so much. And please keep teaching. Please, 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 please. So thank you everyone for being here. It's such a great honor. And I hope we will do that again sooner than later. So let's keep in touch. Earl is teaching Yoga Sutra in May. So if you have a chance, join us and join the practice club and just stay connected in the chat. Thank you. And please keep teaching. Yay. Thank you. I wish I
Thanks,
could have
everybody.
some cool music, but I have only lonely jazz available.
It's gonna work. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Laura, see you on the weekend.
See you so soon. Thank you, Earl.
If you want to go to New Orleans, we can go to Laura's studio and do a workshop there. All right. Thanks, y'all. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much for organizing and being part of this, and we'll do it again.
Thanks so much. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry.
No, please
You
cry,
can
cry,
cry.
cry.
It's okay. Yeah. You deserve a good cry. Happy cry. Proud cry.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining. Лена, ну не плачь. Точнее, плачь, ладно.
Я не могу. Можно поплакать чуть-чуть.
Можно чуть-чуть, ну чуть-чуть.
Спасибо тебе.
Еще 17 и 18, девочки.
Впереди много чего еще.
Вот, так что давайте.
Соберитесь. Обнимаю.
Обнимаю.